Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? What is up? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB Network, your destination for Los Angeles sports. Thank you so much, as always, for making us a part of your day, Rams fans. As Skinny T likes to say, the most influential Rams podcast on the internet. So we appreciate you all for that. We did our live immediate reaction recap after the 24-18 loss to the Bears on Sunday. So we are not doing a full recap of the game. So if you want to hear our thoughts on kind of the game specifically, if you're not watching on YouTube, you can head over to YouTube. Rams LAFB is the channel. You'll see our live there and you can check that out, or it is up on LAFBnetwork.com. You can see it there as well. So today we're going to go over a few different things before then we get to our preview episode later in the week. But first and foremost, my man Skinny T on his day off, blessing us with his presence, with his beautiful golden locks as always. What's up, man? How you doing on this Tuesday?
Doing great, man. I love doing this. So, day off, not day off, whatever. I'm here to talk about football, talk about Rams football. I love it.
I love it. Well, good. Well, appreciate you. Good to see you as always. And yeah, it's, we, like I said, we talked about the game, gave our thoughts. So we don't want to belabor the recap of the game. Tough loss to the Bears, a game that we felt could have been won. Should have been won. Yeah, it's probably a better way to put it. When you're as bad as the Rams were in the red zone, when you're bad at tackling and your run defense is bad, that's hard to overcome. So those were kind of our three key takeaways from that loss. And Stafford, didn't have his best Stafford game. It was still a good game because Stafford's just that good, but it wasn't the best of Stafford. It wasn't a 18 for 18 Jared Goff performance last night. Love
that game was wild.
Yeah, that was a good game. Happy for him. And hey, I know that now there's this Rams-Lions rivalry, but in reality, they beat a division rival Seahawks. So you had to be rooting for the Lions last night because need to take the Seahawks down, who were undefeated going into that game. So good game there. But anyway, so today we want to talk about kind of looking through the schedule because we talked a lot on the live, like where is this team? Like, do they need to mail it and rebuild? Do they still have a shot? We've seen some people out there thinking season's over, doom and gloom. Other people think this is still a contending playoff team. I think me and you both kind of sit more in the middle where it's not completely over yet, but a lot needs to happen for them to be a true playoff team. Plus getting healthy. So we're going to look at the schedule, kind of look realistic expectations from here. October 1st. Still feels weird to say. It's the first month of October already, which is crazy. Fall is around the corner, or fall is here officially. September 21st was the last day of summer. So we'll look at that. Cooper Kupp brought up again. We've mentioned it a couple times, but the great Peter Schrager, who I would consider a Rams insider, is very close with McVay and the Rams organization, talked about yesterday on Good Morning Football, not necessarily from the Rams perspective, but talking about the Chiefs with their latest injury to Rashid Rice, talking about they should potentially go after Cooper Kupp as a trade target. So we'll talk about that. And this is going to end very quickly, but we will briefly bring up Davante Adams and his disgruntled situation in Vegas and whether the Rams should pursue. Show is always brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. All the best lines for you. You can bet on your Rams every single week. College football, if you want to bet on USC, or basically bet on whoever's playing UCLA this season, or obviously every other sport. We got ALDS already starting, or not the DS, just the wild card games. I always forget the new formats with baseball now, but baseball playoffs are starting today, so you can bet on baseball. All of it can be done at betonline.ag. Tell them the guys over at the LAFB Network sent you. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. So, Skinny, before we just jump into this kind of schedule and realistic expectation, anything you need to add, get off your chest after the game on Sunday that you didn't on Sunday?
I wrote an article about McVay calling out this missed pressure that led to a Montez Sweat strip sack that led to a quick turnaround touchdown when the Chicago Bears were deep in Rams territory. I don't know if there's anything to talk about there, but it just goes to show that what the state of this team is at. And he also talked about kind of he was asked a question yesterday at a press conference about taking anything away from the 2023 season and what this team can do kind of in the back half after the bye week. And McVay just straight up said 2023 is in the past. Every year is a new year. Every team is a new team, and he said that this team needs to figure it out. They need to figure out what, how do you come together as a team, and it's been very interesting McVay year where he's always been very much a take the responsibility of the loss directly on himself, not being very careful not to criticize or call out his players. And it seems like he's getting a little bit crust on him, little old man, starting to call out some players, starting to call out specific plays where things were missed, and he puts it back on himself. But I gotta say, it's kind of interesting and refreshing that he now wants to kind of put everything on the team. He's going to own what he owns, but he's acknowledging that his team has to really step up, and this is kind of the corner they've painted themselves in, getting rid of a guy like Ernest Jones. They've kind of with their team building philosophy, you look at the depth right now in the defensive backfield, and it's undrafted free agents without any experience. And this is where they are, and that means that the players really have to do their end of the bargain.
Yeah, I mean, there's a famous quote always that the best teams, like good teams, have good coaching leadership. Great teams have good player leadership. Mm-hmm. And I think the Rams have always had really good player leadership. When you look just since they've been in LA, you can look at Andrew Whitworth. Obviously Aaron Donald. I think they still have some of that, but I think that's some of the issues, and maybe that he's alluding to between the lines is like, okay, yeah, these are misplays, but which team leaders are going to step up to take onus on this? Because there is no more Aaron Donald. Obviously Witt's been gone for a while now, but Cooper Kupp, obviously a leader, but he's hurt, and obviously he's around the team, but it's different when you're not practicing. Like, yeah, you're at practice, but you're not like on the field practicing. No Ernest Jones, like you mentioned. So like, who is that defensive leader that's going to step up? It is a young group. You're talking about either an acquired free agent or potentially a rookie or a second-year guy is going to have to lead that defensive unit to get better. When you look at the offense, obviously still Matthew Stafford's there, but a reshuffled offensive line, a totally different receiving core as it stands right now. Obviously Tutu's been there. Robinson was there last year, but Whittington's a rookie. Tyler Johnson's off the P squad. I mean, it's a different group. So I think I like it too. Like, I've loved McVay, how he always takes the ownership and never throws guys under the bus. And I still don't think he was necessarily doing that, but he was signaling that we're at a spot, a junction now where like this team and these players need to step up, and there needs to be a newfound leadership, because those pillars that have always been talked about, one is gone. Another pillar who we thought, Ernest Jones, is also gone, and one is hurt. And so you're basically leaning on one pillar right now in Matthew Stafford. And so who else is going to step up? So it's a great point, Skinny. Well done. Well done.
I think about football far too much. I think about this team a lot. So something's always churning up there.
Yeah.
And you bring up kind of a interesting question that I've been this is my next idea that I'm trying to figure out, which is, they talked about those three pillars that they're going to rebuild the team on. Now it was coming out of 2022, which is seems like ancient history now.
Yeah.
Does that exist with Aaron Donald gone? Does that, has their philosophy completely changed? And what is it right now? It's so hard to say. And, McVay, I think, mentioned it in one of his press conferences about how they were really leaning on this offense he said something about how the defense, the identity of the defense was actually going to be kind of pointed in a direction by the offense. And that's what everybody recognized. That we weren't the first ones to point it out, but investing so much on the offensive line, what the running game looked like last year, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and then on the other side of the ball, it used to be Ernest Jones, and we'll see what Kobie Turner does. We'll see what these guys do, but he said that the philosophy was going to be dictated by how good the offense could be, and Stafford's done what he could do. But, and this might be a good segue to talk about, wide receivers and what to do with that. But, he's got to have more help than what he's getting. He's getting hit. Now he's the second most hit quarterback in the league with 19 behind Deshaun Watson. So, something needs to change.
Yeah. And last kind of point on that, and I'm not an architect, but I'll give a little bridge reference, right? You talk about the three pillars, bridges, when the suspension bridge was created, it was so that you could distribute weight across more land with less pillars, right? You were able to suspend the weight and it distributed it more. When the Rams had those three core pillars, they could be weaker at other areas because of how strong those three pillars are. Well, now the way this team is they can't do that, regardless of what anyone thinks. Like Aaron Donald was such a huge pillar and such a strength that now no longer can they have this suspension bridge. It's basically back to an old school bridge that needs a pillar every 10 feet in order for it not to crumble. And we're seeing through these 4 weeks it crumble because the pillars just aren't strong enough or distributed enough across the way. So they need to find those. They're not going to have those three pillars in the 2024 season. It's just not there, especially with the health issues. So who's going to be able to step up so the weight can be evenly distributed across the rest of the team? How's that for architecture, baby?
Love it, baby. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just to your point, I had it in front of me and now I'm like losing my tab, but the offense, which this team was going to lean on, I think it's averaging like 18 points a game, which, and the defense is giving up 28. So that's not going to get it done. Obviously, when the strength you built around is like bottom 5 in the league, and the defense we kind of thought was going to be potentially bottom 5 is clearly bottom 5, but the strength is not top 5. They're also bottom 5. So that's why they're 1-3.
100%. Yeah.
So, but let's look forward. Do you want to talk Cooper Kupp first or look at the schedule first?
Let's talk Cooper Kupp. I mean, we don't, I think the schedule piece will be a bit longer. This one will probably be pretty quick. I don't know. So Schrager floated it that, Kansas City Chiefs should, pick up the phone, call Les Snead and see if he's willing to move from Cooper Kupp, which, Sean McVay and Schrager, Schrager was at his wedding. He gave a little speech at his wedding. They hosted a podcast together. They go way back. So what do you think? Are they, would they, could they, should they, I guess?
Oh man. Would they? I would never count the Rams out for doing anything. I think they've proven that. So they definitely would, I guess, or could, whatever you want to phrase it. If it's best for the team and best for kind of what they think moving forward. Should they? Again, this is the trade deadline you found out is what, November 5th, you said?
Yeah.
So a month away. And we'll get to the schedule here in a minute, but if this team, by that trade deadline is still even a 3-win team, let's call it, then I think you've basically mailed the season in. I'm not saying like they're not going to play hard and yada, 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 but you have a slim to maybe none chance. I'm trying to do the math in my head, but if they're a 2-win team at the trade deadline, I don't think there's even mathematically a chance to make the playoffs. So at that point, as much as we all love Cooper Kupp, as much as when he's healthy, I truly believe he's still a top 5 receiver in this game. We saw him in that week 1, how dominant he could be and take over games. But you have to think of the future. You have to think of his contract, and you have to think about what you could get back to build for the future. And so that's when I would say yes. Now, if they go to that trade deadline and they've turned things around somehow and are winning team, that changes things. Then you're looking at the other side of who they can get to build this up. So would they? I think they would. Should they? It's a cop-out answer, but I think it truly depends where they are at that trade deadline. What say you?
Yeah, and this actually goes back to that conversation, that thinking I was putting into what is the new building philosophy around that. This would tell a lot about where Les Snead's head is, in terms of the team build.
Yeah.
It stops being about one last run for Matthew Stafford, the second to last run for Matthew Stafford, and it starts becoming about what 2025 looks like, 2026 looks like.
Yeah.
So that's that's something that we could learn from it. I mean, I have such a hard time thinking that they would make such a cold, calculating business decision.
Yeah.
But as you said, they've proven over and over again that, the team reigns above everything else for this organization. And I have a hard time arguing with that. As much as I respect Cooper Kupp, the player he is, as much as I like him as a person, I love watching interviews with him. He's a great guy he's so incredibly smart and fun to listen to as well. So, it becomes about Puka Nacua. That's the new pillar to build around, and Kyren Williams, really.
Yeah.
So the Cooper Kupp trade then opens up all sorts of other. Are we going to tear it down on defense? Are we going to get rid of Tre'Davious White and Darius Williams? And it opens up all these other things. So it's a can of worms for sure. And from the Chiefs' perspective, that's a pretty desperate move with other names out there that are younger and more healthy, and possibly fit better with, like, he doesn't. Yeah, I know that they've had kind of slow receivers, but Andy Reid likes a fast guy, so I don't think he's at the top of the list. So
yeah, see, I think he would fit perfectly with the Chiefs just because he's such a smart, cerebral receiver, and they do so many like zone concepts where or choice, whatever you want to call them, zone, choice, option reads. I mean, how many times do they tell Kelsey, run basically to the 20 and then pick a spot and Mahomes will find you. Cooper Kupp will be so good at that. And they obviously need a speed guy. That's a layer of the offense they have to have, which he would not be. But he would fit perfectly in kind of that type of role, I think, and whatnot. But anyway, I don't want it to happen necessarily. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine if at the trade deadline, all of a sudden this team trades Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, and we're getting like, fans are probably about to shut this thing off just imagining that. But I mean, again, if they're at 2 wins, I mean, why would you not at least entertain that? Again, as a fan, as people fans, that sucks because Cooper Kupp is a lifelong Ram, beloved. Matthew Stafford, obviously, since he's been here, he's embraced LA. Everyone loves him. But when you look at 2 wins at November 5th, season's over. Next year there has to be changes to this roster because of just age and health and contracts. Not saying they couldn't run it back with those guys and when healthy, be a very good team. I'm not saying that, but I mean, if it falls again, then you're really pigeonholed for 26 or whatever. But we're getting way down the line. But can you imagine that? That would be wild if no Stafford, no Kupp.
Well, and this season is going so much differently than we all anticipated. This is not I thought worst case scenario coming out of the first game, it'd be 2-2, for 4 games.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't think anyone had them losing to Arizona, especially getting blown out. So, all right. Well, let's look at this realistically. 1-3 team right now. You get the Packers next. Packers, a healthy Jordan Love. Started slow last week against the Vikings, but obviously brought them roaring back. They almost stole that game against the Vikings after being down 28-3 at one point. Haven't heard yet on Jair Alexander, who missed last week, but if he is back, obviously one of the best corners in the game. Just your thoughts, and we're not going to take 5 minutes on each game, but just your thoughts on this one. And I'll put it in our chat so we can keep track of the record, so then we can see what they would be at in the trade deadline. But what do you think? You think they got a chance against the Packers? It is at home, so that's SoFi.
Yeah. Interesting. They've lost 4 straight now to the Packers.
Yeah.
The last one they won is 2018. And there is a really interesting conversation about Matt LaFleur right now. He's emerging as a fantastic coach. And he's had McVay's number and really good run defense, one of the best run defenses in the league, and that's something that they've been leaning on since the receivers are out. It'll be interesting to see what the Rams defensive line does to the offensive line. Can Jordan Love, another really mobile guy. So they've really struggled against that. Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray. So I'm going to say that's unfortunately an L.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Packers have, I don't want to say surprising. A lot of people had them coming out of the NFC, but have looked, I think, even stronger than we expected, especially with losing Jordan Love for a few games and still coming out victorious with Malik Willis as their backup. The defense, as you mentioned, has been really strong. Last week, again, getting boat raced at home and then battled all the way back, and it came down to like an onside kick at the end of the game. So, Matt LaFleur, I think, started off as a coach, kind of like, okay, how is this guy for real? Or was he kind of just riding the wings of McVay to get a job because how much of his own? And I think he's become a really, really good head coach and has had McVay's numbers similar to Kyle Shanahan, unfortunately. So for that reason too, I just think I haven't seen anything from this team, and the Packers run game has been really good with Josh Jacobs, who they signed from Vegas. So I haven't seen anything that leads me to believe the Rams will win this game. Can they win this game? Like we said on the live, like as long as Stafford and McVay are on the sidelines or together, they can win any game. But will they is another question. I don't see it. So I'll go with an L as well. So that would put them at 1-4 entering the bye week. After the bye, what?
There's good news after the bye.
Yes, there is very good news after the bye, which I guess we can piggyback this with the other thing I teased in the beginning. They get the Raiders at home. It's the Raiders, a lot of LA fans. So a lot of Raider fans will be at the game, but it's at home in the confines of SoFi. Raiders are a mess. Questionable hire anyway with Antonio Pierce. We won't get into that. Devontae Adams seemingly, I don't even know what's going on with that. He was injured or something, then like a scratch. Now he's saying he hasn't talked to the coach or went with the team, and now they're exploring a trade. As recently this morning, they're actually calling teams. So first and foremost, because we teased it, and this will take 30 seconds, I'm sure Rams fans at least thought it because of trigger happy the Rams can be. Should the Rams, we talked about trading Cooper Kupp, should they do the opposite thing and go get a big name guy like Devontae Adams?
I would love it. I would love it if they did something crazy like that. It would fire everybody up, and it would answer a lot of questions on offense. I feel like having a true number one receiver out there, and then when everybody comes back, it'd be Odell conversations happening again. But no, it's not happening. They might be really desperate and willing to move on from him. Just because he's obviously unhappy there. He left beautiful Green Bay to go play with Derek Carr, Derek Carr, yeah. His former Fresno State teammate. And then he's gone, and now he's stuck with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, whoever's starting there. So, yeah, he's under contract until 2026. $45 million a year cap hit after this year. I think he's a $25 million cap hit right now.
Yeah.
So if this was Madden, I don't know if you can actually do stuff like this in Madden still, but just like make a trade and but this is not Madden, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No. Again, it'd be fun. But yeah, especially with where unless again, if it's like wait till the trade deadline, he has not been dealt by the Raiders yet. The Rams have turned things around. They're like above 500. Then it'd be really interesting. It's like, oh man, if they get Adams, and then when Nacua and Kupp are both back, holy cow, you got those three guys. But that doesn't solve your issues on defense. So you're basically going all in saying you're going to score 30 plus points. Again, the Rams are giving up 28 points. So you have to score 30 plus points right now to win games. I know, obviously the Bears only scored 24, but over average. So it'd be fun, but yeah, it's not happening. B, it would be a very unwise move for sure long term. And I think even just for the season, I think you have other issues that if you're going to make a big blockbuster trade, it shouldn't be for a receiver. I'll just put it like that. However, when you look at this game now off the bye, I like the Rams' chances in this one. Raiders the Raiders got smoked by Carolina.
Oh man, that's dirty. That's not good at all. Yeah, no, I think this game is probably when we'll see Tyler Higbee come back, probably. Yeah. I imagine. So some of the guys will be eligible to come off of the IR.
Maybe
and we know that Darius Williams is entering his 21-day practice window, so he's coming back. We know Puka Nacua is probably not going to be back by this game. Cooper Kupp's probably not going to be back by this game. But maybe some of those offensive linemen will be back. Maybe we'll get Steve Avila. Maybe we'll get Jonah Jackson by now. But no news on them. So don't hold me to that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. I think regardless of anyone coming back, I still like the Rams in this one. I just think the Raiders. I mean, we'll see what they look like this year or this week, excuse me. But Rams able to come off a bye, I think will be should be healthier, and the Raiders just aren't a very good football team right now. So we'll call that a win. So that brings them back to what is it, 2-4 now?
2-4.
All right, we're making moves. Next, before the season, looked like this would be a fairly not easy game, but a very winnable game. And now you get a Thursday night primetime game with the Vikings, the currently undefeated. We'll see if it's that way at the end of this month, but undefeated Vikings coming to town. The Rams have a shot in this one. Sam Darnold's return to LA, USC Trojan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm betting that there's going to be a Sam Darnold regression at some point. He's looked really good. He tried to hand that game back to the Green Bay Packers. A couple bad plays at the end of that game. So, if he falls back to earth, they have a better chance. Who's coming back by now? It starts to get hairy around that. But their defense is also playing lights out, and they're playing a crazy version of football. So if the offensive line is not completely intact and completely found some cohesion, this will be a tough one for the Rams to win. I'm gonna say a loss there.
Yeah, again, hard to know who will be back, but just based on what we've seen right now, that Vikings defense is pretty lights out. I know they let the Packers back in, but some of that was on their offense's doing and whatnot. So, I too, I think it's just going to be a tough bout. So I'll go Vikings win as well. So 2-5 now are the Rams, and next they get to travel up to the Crescent City, beautiful Seattle, to play division rival Seahawks. What you got in this one?
Yeah, jury's still out, on the Seahawks for me. Obviously, they've looked great. Gave the Lions everything that they could give them. But some inconsistencies there. Some health issues kind of cropping up for them. Just for the benefit. Well, it's a road game too. This will probably see some people. Cooper Kupp will probably be back by then. So the offense is going to open up. I'm gonna give it to the Rams. I'm just gonna give it to the Rams.
Yeah, I am as well. The Rams play the Seahawks well. They should seemingly have at least a few guys back, as we keep saying. Go ahead.
They played really well against the Mike McDonald defense when he was with Baltimore as well. So
yes, very true. So you got to think the offense is going to look better by this point, regardless of who's healthy and who's not. The defense again, we'll see. But yeah, I just think the Rams play the Seahawks well. So we'll go with the win here. And this game is on November 3rd, so 2 days before the trade deadline. This would put the Rams at 3-6 or 3-5. So remember last year, 3-6, turn it around, made the playoffs, 10-win team. So now at the trade deadline, and we've already belabored it a lot, but at a 3-5 record, could you see them being active in a positive way, not a rebuild way?
Well, you look at the schedule, the next two games, very winnable. Dolphins and Patriots game, depending on what the Dolphins decide to do at quarterback. Maybe Tua will be back by then, but those two games I'm going to chalk up as wins.
The next three, I mean, Eagles have looked really bad too.
I struggle with the Eagles, finding a win for the Rams. That's going to be a much better game. I think everybody's going to be healthy by then. So I think you're right. I think, you start getting people back healthy. Am I talking myself into this?
Like, are they now? So that would put them at 6-5. Those 3 wins.
Is the Seattle game the hinge of this season?
It might be.
If they can get away with that one, is that the hinge?
So that would be if they lose, you're 2-6 with the trade deadline looming. If you win 3-5, and now the next win, I mean, even if let's say they drop, we'll just kind of go through this quickly now. Let's say Dolphins. We'll see if Tua's back by then. I don't think he should be back. That's another conversation. Patriots, I think they're pretty well coached. They're going to be a team down the line, but they're just not there talent wise yet. Let's call those wins. Let's just call the Eagles a loss. I think they could beat that game as well, but let's just call it a loss. They'd be 5-6 at that point.
Okay.
You still have kind of one loss left to get to that 10 wins, which we both think can get you in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But after that Eagles game, you got at Saints, you get the Bills, the Niners, the Jets, and the Cardinals. We talked about it in the in the summer. That 5-game stretch is brutal to end the season for the Rams.
So they got
to do it.
Yeah, if they win that Seattle thing and they invest a big trade on the defense, probably, maybe. I don't know.
You would hope.
Yeah. Some of those games become really winnable. I think the Saints are, they're not that high flying. Derek Carr came back to earth.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's great ball. Really fantastic.
Yep.
You got the Niners, and we'll see what happened with the Jets. I mean, I think they're still kind of, getting their team together. So their season by that time will be definitely defined. I'm not going to bet against Aaron Rodgers. Learned my lesson on that one. I don't bet, but but I feel like an idiot when I'm like, Rodgers is going to fall back to earth, but he never does. But yeah. So I think if you're coming out of that, Seahawks game and you make some sort of move to solidify your defense, that last half, it's going to have to be magical again. And the thing we don't like to think about on that back half is there were some cupcakes in 2023's season. So
yeah, Washington, Giants,
Washington, yeah.
Okay, so let's put it like this: truly, do you think Rams beat the Eagles or Eagles beat the Rams? Because that makes things very different.
Yeah, I think they're going to have everybody back, so I think it's going to be a really competitive game. So I think that's a winnable game.
Okay,
so I think I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad picking them in that.
So they would be 6-5. So they just need to go 3-2 to finish the season. This is what it hinges on, Skinny T. Can they go 3-2 in those 5 games? Because again, 10 wins, I think, gets you in the playoffs.
Well, they got it. Well, there's 6 games left after that.
Sorry, yeah. So you got to go 4-2. Excuse me.
4-2. Yeah, I mean, let's say Buffalo's a loss.
Yeah,
and at San Francisco, I don't love.
Yeah, I don't love that either.
But I mean, yeah.
So let's just call those losses. So they got to beat the Saints, the Jets, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. So win their last 3 in a row.
That's a tough stretch. That's on the road in New York in December.
Yeah, they're one cold game of the year.
Yeah, I wonder, Arizona early in the season. Obviously, we know what the result of that game was. That defense is not talented. They kind of put it together, and by the end of the season, is it going to be completely exposed? So that's definitely it's definitely not going to be a blowout for sure. And it depends on how good Seattle plays. I mean, maybe they rest everybody in that final week. So I think
just leave it at this. It's possible.
It's possible. Let's put our feet to the fire. Let's actually. I mean, I know these late games are really abstract, so we don't have to necessarily pick winners and losers there. But what do you think? What do you think this team gets to?
I think they end up 9-8 and just miss out.
Okay.
I just think that's a tall order going 4-2 down the stretch. And that's with winning every game they should before that, right? Dolphins if Tua is back, that's a completely different offense they've been terrible with their the last 3 weeks without him. So if he ends up coming back, that changes things. The Eagles, again, have talent. They've just looked very lackluster, but it's still a good defense. Patriots are just a young, kind of hungry team. So, but us saying they're going to win all 3 of those games, might be a stretch, but I think they can. I think 9-8 right now is kind of the ceiling. Can they win 10? Yeah. Can they win 5? Yeah. But I'll go 9-8, feet to the fire. But everything, as we said, hinges on that November 3rd Seattle game. That's really the season right there for me.
Yeah, I'm going 8-9.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of variance. There's a lot of variance in this team right now, and I don't believe they've done enough on the defensive side to the defense wins these late season games. There's less regression in it. Kyren Williams, big questions around him. He's not getting any support. Is he going to remain healthy? They're going to lean on him a lot. So 8-9 for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Because remember last year too, they got 10 wins, and we praised that team. What a great coaching job! But that 10th win also was a give me game. The Niners rested all their players. The Rams did too. So they, the backups beat the backups, which is great. But they basically got gifted that 10th win. So with the way it's going right now, that might be tough. It could happen, but
I think this is going to really divide the fan base, because there are some people in their feelings in the chat during our live show that were just like, burn it down, trade them all, fire McVay,
fire Snead,
move the team to England, whatever. Nobody actually said that one, but there was some people that were feeling that loss.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which we appreciate. We love when you guys are raw with us, and you guys are fans. So you should have intense feelings about this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It does. Going through this, it does make that Bears loss that much tougher to swallow. You can look at the Detroit one overtime, but I think everyone can say like Detroit's a really good football team, and the Rams were punching above their weight in that one. But yeah, just the red zone deficiency like that. You win that Bears game, you're at 2-2. That changes a lot. Whereas now, like, I truly believe, like, going through this now, like, that November 3rd Seattle game is the season. You lose, you trade it all away and rebuild. You win, you might go all in and try to make a run at it. Like that, it's that, and they might be going all in with a 2-game below 500 record. That's what's crazy to think about.
Yeah,
maybe 3-5 and saying like, all right, we're going all in at 3-5.
I think we can believe in this team. Yeah, the Athletic has a playoff projections odds out there, so they're picking them as an 8-9 team with a 16% chance of winning, or of making the playoffs. Oddly,
there's a chance.
Well, they're right between the Titans and the Panthers, below the Raiders, below the Broncos, below the Bears.
Broncos are 2-2
in terms
baby.
of their odds. So. Broncos are 2-2.
Broncos are 2-2, baby.
That is crazy.
They're the
averaging 9 points a game.
Dude, I mean, that defense is unreal. It shows you when you're thinking roster construction, and quarterback is most important position of all, obviously, bar none. But after your quarterback, it shows you that defense is what you should invest in. Because the Broncos have no business being 2-2. I mean, their offense has been horrendous. They did have a random good game against the Bucs 2 weeks ago. They put up like 26 points, and Bo Nix looked really good. But the other 3 games, their offense has been brutal. And they're 2-2 because their defense has been lights out. And the Rams have arguably, on paper, the best offense in football. Obviously, it's injured. But they're 1-3 because their defense is brutal. So, for all those young GMs out there that listen to the most influential Rams podcast on the internet, get your quarterback and then invest in the defense. I mean, the Bears, right? Bears offense has not been good, but they have a good defense.
You get yourself a edge rusher. You get yourself a dominant pass rusher. You get yourself a Sauce Gardner in the back end. Top 10.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. So,
you heard it here first. You heard it here first. Edge rushers, man.
I mean, just talking to the Broncos again, when they won in 2015, the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning, member, was out, missed 7 games, and he was not a good Peyton Manning even when healthy.
Yeah, no.
But that defense was so damn good.
Yeah, with Von Miller.
Carolina had the number 1 offense in football, and they looked terrible in that Super Bowl, losing whatever it was, 21-10, as the Broncos defense just dominated them. So look at Buccaneers versus Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Buccaneers defense dominated him. Obviously, they had Tom Brady as their quarterback. So that helps a little bit, but it was the defense. They won.
Yeah, well, and I was doing some research on a piece that was writing about the Chargers passing game, if they should trade for a wide receiver. Their wide receivers are just, on a whole, they're just terrible.
Yeah. Not good.
But they're averaging 136 passing yards, and
with Herbert,
it's been since 2007 since any team has made the Super Bowl with fewer than 200 yards passing. That was the last time a team even sniffed it, and that was Eli Manning, and I don't know how that team ended up doing that. But
what's crazy is I don't know the numbers in front of me, but I'm I'm pretty confident the Niners team in whatever year that was, 2012, they won the Super Bowl with Kaepernick and Jim Harbaugh, the coach. I'm pretty sure they barely averaged over 200. There was games Kaepernick had like 60 yards passing.
They averaged 202 yards.
202 yards.
Yeah. I was so excited. To write that it was the Roman and Harbaugh team, but I was like,
just missed it. I mean, that still counts, I think. 202 yards. So, crazy anyway, getting off. So yeah. Hopefully if the Rams decide to go all in, they don't go trade for Devontae Adams. They go out for some defensive players that can help their defense get better. Because, I mean, you're not going to win. You're not going to – all this talk about what they can do, I mean, if we're being very real, they're not going to do anything if this defense doesn't improve drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have Bears fans saying, like, wow, our offense looked like good against your defense, like,
the Bears were one of the worst running teams in the league. Their leading rusher had 68 yards on the entire year.
Yeah. Yeah. Over 100 against the Rams.
Yeah. Just run the ball. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are.
I say all the time, like, I don't want to, like, these coaches are smarter than me. Like, I'm not trying to, like, act like I'm smarter than them. But there's times when I'm like, maybe they aren't smarter than us. Like, I see this Rams defense and I'm like, I would run the ball 45 times. Like, to prove you can stop it. Why are you throwing it when you don't need to? I don't get it.
I went back and watched that big run that they hit, Swift hit, and Kobie Turner not on the field. Kobie Turner's been on the field a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Not necessarily sacking, but he's definitely still doing his role in the run game, or trying to anyway. So anyway, anything else I have to add? We can wrap up, I think, with that.
Nah, let's get out of here.
So yeah, we'll be back later in the week with our preview Rams Packers. Should be a fun game still. Always a chance, like we said. But it's gonna be tough sledding, but we'll see. Let us know what you guys think. Is this Rams team gonna turn around, make the playoffs? Are they gonna make a big move, whether good or bad, or I don't know if you want to call it good or bad, but whether it's all in or rebuild? Is this a 9-win team, 10-win team, 8-win team, 5-win team? Let us know what you guys think. Drop it in the comments if you're on YouTube. Rams LAFB is the YouTube channel. If you're not there, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. LAFBnetwork.com is the website. All of our great Rams coverage. Skinny T's got, articles every day up there, plus all of our video content, and Rams Skinny on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. LAFB Network is the Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're easy to find. At RL Anderson, LAFB is Ryan. At Ryan Dyer, LAFB is myself. Thank you guys, as always. Really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the most influential Rams podcast on the internet, dubbed by Skinny T, self-proclaimed disruptor.
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
That's you. So, thanks, guys. Everyone be well. We'll talk to you here later in the week.